New York City said you have to start paying your drivers fairly, and the rideshare companies have said no. And they're saying no by doing what we in America do best: suing the jerks. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and this is a bonus video today because I meant what I said. My Surface is out of commission, and Microsoft has agreed to fix it for me for free. I'll probably get a refurbished one, back in the mail within like a week or so. And so all of this week's videos have already been filmed. They were in the can, and yet news travels so fast, some startling developments happen that I had to start filming again today, this time with my phone on my tripod. I think this is the first cell phone fusion video that you're watching, so hopefully it's good. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. I feel so lost without my Surface sometimes, but thank goodness we have other ways to film ourselves, right? Well, anyway, let's continue with the story. And the story is that you might have recalled several months ago, I reported, well, me and a lot of other people, of course, reported that in New York City, they were starting something of an experiment. They were going to force the rideshare companies that, hey, your drivers need to make at least minimum wage. Now, I was kind of like, well, this might be an interesting experiment because it's like there are a lot of drivers who don't make the minimum wage. Then there's a fair amount who do. I mean, some people say, well, if you're not making more than minimum wage doing Uber and Lyft, you're probably doing it wrong. And yeah, that's probably true, to be honest. But you should still make the minimum wage, I think. If you're making less minimum wage, and one of the things that they had put forth was that they had to pay them enough to cover car expenses and stuff. Because here's the thing, even if you make a little bit more than minimum wage, after you take the fees out and the gas and the maintenance and the wear and tear in the car, sometimes it's less than minimum wage. So that's what the law was there to protect. And then a rideshare company came along and decided to sue New York for that. That was Juno. But there was another company that decided to also sue New York City. And I was surprised that they decided to throw their hat in the ring, so to speak, and that is Lyft. According to Business Insider, ride-hailing drivers in New York City are set to get a legally guaranteed minimum wage on Friday, but new lawsuits filed Wednesday from two Uber competitors could put a wrinkle in their raise. Juno and Lyft say the minimum wage of $17.22 after expenses that was approved by the city council in December will make it impossible for their companies to compete with Uber, which still has the upper hand in most of the country, including New York, the U.S. largest ride-hailing market. Well, this is an interesting argument. I was about to say, I was prepared, because I haven't read this article yet, but I was prepared for them to say, oh, that'll make things financially cumbersome for us and we can't afford that, which I was ready to equip back, well, but you say you can make more than $25 an hour. Apparently that's not what they're suing on the basis. Here's where they're suing. Quote, although the TLC's professed goal of ensuring that FHV drivers are paid fairly is well-intentioned in theory, and indeed the very goal upon which Juno has modeled its business, the mechanism by which the TLC has committed to do so is inherently flawed and fundamentally unfair, the lawsuit from Juno reads. Lyft, which filed its similar lawsuit shortly after Juno, is not trying to stop the entire law, a spokesperson pointed out. Rather, the heart of the issue lies in a relatively complicated minimum wage formula that is calculated based time, mileage, and an industry-wide utilization rate. Quote, our lawsuit does not target the law passed by City Council, but instead addresses the specific way the TLC plans to implement the rules, which would advantage Uber in New York City at the expense of drivers and smaller players such as Lyft. It's no secret that Uber has tried to put us out of business in the past. They failed repeatedly, and the TLC should not assist them in their efforts. This is interesting. The formula was codified following a July report commissioned by the New York City Council from academic researchers James Parrott and Michael Rake? I don't know. It found the median Lyft driver takes home $13.85 per hour, about 24% lower than the floor that would take effect Friday. Juno drivers were above the minimum at $18.26 per hour. So here's a chart they have here. Median net hourly earnings for New York ride-hailing drivers. So Lyft is at the way bottom. Apparently you don't want to be driving for Lyft in New York, but Via is actually on the top. Now, a lot of places don't know what Via is. They've pretty much largely stuck to New York. That's actually the frustrating thing. I would love if Via and Juno expand a little bit more, but I think they're pretty much only in New York. I think VIA might be in a couple other places, especially internationally, but I haven't, and I think they might even be in Los Angeles for all I know, but they're not everywhere. At the crux of Lyft's argument is a detail in the rule which says the minimum wage must be applied on a per ride basis as opposed to a weekly basis, meaning each ride must pay $17.22 per hour before expenses, as opposed to all rides over a span of multiple days paying out that amount. Quote, there was no support in the administrative record before the TLC for requiring the calculation of river earnings on a per trip basis to the exclusion of a per week calculation option, Lyft lawsuits read. The per trip calculation requirement was essentially plucked out of thin air by the TLC, with no support from Parrott and Reich, no analysis of its effect. Okay. Most ride-hailing firms, Uber included, have faced backlash from drivers over low pay and a lack of benefits that would come from being classified as employees rather than independent contractors. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio was quick to come to their support, tweeting that the lawsuits were unconscionable. This is what he wrote exactly. Unconscionable. The overwhelming majority of these companies' drivers earn less than minimum wage. We won't stand for it in New York City and will fight every step of the way to get workers the pay they deserve. And he quotes an article from The Verge. Come on, Mayor de Blasio. You could also share one of my videos. I mean, I have the same information, except it's done in a visual and oral fashion. But anyway. Quote, the rule actually will harm the very drivers it ostensibly was designed to protect and adversely impact passengers by eliminating healthy competition in the industry, Juno's lawsuit reads. The rule is arbitrary and capricious and should be annulled for at least the following separate and independent reasons. Okay. Uber and Juno did not immediately respond to requests for comment for Business Insider. A court hearing is set for 2 p.m. Okay, obviously, by the time I record that will have happened, and by the time this goes up, that will happen. So there might be a follow-up video on Friday, who knows? Now, what's interesting about this is that here's the full lawsuit. And I don't even know if I could completely understand what this means, because I haven't explained, at least in the article, how Uber is advantaged in this area. In fact, going back up to the chart, it looks like it seems like Uber would be affected just as much as they would. And I find there's two things about this that I find fascinating, though. Let's see, is there anything here that I can, but the actual cannot because of this affected. I think the batteries on this mouse are going down. So let's just go back up to the picture right here. There's two interesting things about this lawsuit. First of all, Uber is not joining in on it, and that makes a lot of sense. That actually does. I'm actually very surprised Lyft is doing this, and we'll say why in a moment. So maybe there is something to be said that maybe Uber does have an advantage, but in neither of the quotes do they actually explain why it gives Uber an advantage. Because here's the thing. If the law works the way I think it is, yeah, if someone gives one ride for that hour, they are guaranteed that much money. However, if they continue driving, they might make substantially more than that through a surge or a prime time. So far, at least in the initial announcements, they have not explained how this is unfair or how this is giving Uber an advantage. But here's the reason I'm surprised Lyft is doing this. I'm not surprised Juno is. Juno, frankly, doesn't have a whole lot to lose by filing this lawsuit. But Lyft is about to go public. They have filed for an IPO, the paperwork is in motion, and most companies do not want to be in the middle of major lawsuits when they go public. It does not add a lot to investor confidence. People don't like to invest in companies that are under legal scrutiny or who are in the middle of a legal battle, which includes expenses, and who knows if they're going to actually win or not. So there's a reason that when you're going public, you usually try to settle cases that come up, or you delay the IPO. But Lyft is actually joining in and suing New York City. So I wonder if that actually says something about what their plans are for the IPO. Do they not have it lined up as well as we think they do? Did the government shutdown actually affect them? I don't know. But yeah, this is going to be very interesting. I actually expected this to happen, to be perfectly frank. I expected the ride-sharing companies to fight back because this is their lifeblood. Their lifeblood is paying you piss poor money, and they will do what they can to protect you. Now, I'm not 100% familiar with how the New York City, works out. NYC driver vlog, he's probably a better person because he actually drives in New York City and was a taxi cab. And yeah, he goes, you get a lot of good information from him with that. But here's the thing. It's just, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where this actually goes. So I think that's pretty much where I'm going to end it. I don't think there's anything else I can talk about right now. Chances are, like, by the time this is going up, more information will come out, and I'll have to make another video on Friday. I guess your personal driver is right. I am truly the best place to go for the news that you heard first somewhere else, and I'm here for the second or third time. Anyway, who knows? Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think about this. What do you think of the lawsuit? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Do you drive in New York City? Are you still in favor of the minimum wage thing? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even those $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.